Ladies and gentlemen, today we are settling the biggest debate in Minnesota lake living. On the one side, we have the legendary Gull Lake Chain, home to multi-million-dollar mansions or cabins, celebrity hideouts, epic sandbar parties. And on the other hand, we have the iconic Whitefish Chain with pristine waters, billion-dollar views, and the hottest hangouts north of the Twin Cities. Which lake deserves your hard-earned cash and your weekends? Buckle up. Hold on to your seats. This is Gull Lake versus Whitefish Chain, the ultimate Minnesota lake battle. Let's get ready to rumble. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about living in the Brainerd Lakes area, subscribe below, tap that bell for notifications. That way you're going to be the first to know about the current market and what's happening in the Brainerd Lakes area. My name is Noah Gedker. We get calls, texts, emails all the time from people just like you looking to make a move to the Brainerd Lakes area, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to make a move in 9 days or 9 months, shoot us a text, give us a call, send us an email, schedule a Zoom call. All the info is in the description below, and we'd love to help you make a smooth move to the Brainerd Lakes area. All right, so round one is going to be quick, just about lake vibe and lifestyle. So Gull Lake gets the first shot. Known for high-end luxury vibes, think Lake Minnetonka meets cabin country. Look, Gull Lake has hot spots for Minneapolis executives and sports stars escaping the city chaos. Think retired Vikings and CEOs cruising around on luxury pontoons. Then you have, of course, then you have the major hotspots on Gull Lake, which would be like Zorba's, Bar Harbor, Ernie's on Gull, of course, that has to be mentioned, and along with a lot of other places that we could talk about, but those would be the main ones. Then, of course, sandbar parties are pretty legendary all across Minnesota, but on Gull Lake especially. Premium cocktails, boats the price of some people's houses, and dock wars over parking spots at some locations. Next up is the Whitefish Chain. The Whitefish Chain has certainly a little more relaxed upscale or up north feel, popular with kind of old school Minnesota money, a little bit older age group, entrepreneurs, and maybe potentially some celebrities who actually want a bit of privacy. There's certainly notable residents rumored to include Fortune 500 executives and local business moguls seeking a little less flash and a little more chill, a little more privacy. Then there's the key hotspots on the Whitefish Chain, similar to Gull, but these would be like Moonlight Bay, Manhattan Beach Lodge, the Wharf, which is certainly a very family-friendly restaurant, yet still serving cocktails that are going to be strong enough to make lake days a little blurry. Who's the winner of round one? Well, Gull Lake has a little more flash and glam, and Whitefish is a little more laid-back luxury. So it's hard to say exactly who won. You be the decider of that based off of what you prefer. Time to go take round two. So round two is home prices and styles of homes, right? So let's talk numbers, shall we? So we'll start with Gull Lake Chain. The median home price for homes on Gull Lake in 2025 is generally around approximately 1.2 to 2 million for a lakefront home or a private lakefront single family home. We're not talking about condos and townhomes necessarily today. So the average lake home on the Gull Lake Chain is $1.4 million. And you'll typically get like a 4 or 5 bedroom home, 3 or 4 bathrooms, an average, generally at least 3,000 square feet. The higher priced ones are going to generally be closer to 5,000 square feet. Home styles will be like, kind of somewhat of modern mansions, but think luxury cabins. A lot of craftsman style components will be involved. Architectural Digest meeting Bass Pro Shops, if that helps. Now, on the other side is the Whitefish Chain. It's going to be pretty similar, actually. So the median home price right now, really ranging between $900,000 and $2.5 million. That's kind of the range that you're going to find yourself in. The top end for both chains is going to be similar, 4 or 5 million. There's actually a little bit more range with the Whitefish Chain, actually. A little bit more options on the lower side of things. So it's a bit more affordable, we can see, on the Whitefish Chain. The average right now is about 1.3 million. So, 100,000 less. There you go. So a lake lot on the Gull Lake Chain, anywhere between about $3,000 to $12,000 a front foot of lakefront. Okay, 600,000 to 1.5 million, somewhere in there. Depending on the shoreline quality, if it's a nice sandy beach, level elevation versus something that's a high steep elevation that you have a lot of steps down to, or a tram to get down to the lake, and depending on the lake bottom, if it's kind of murky or muddy versus a hard sand, those are going to be a number of the variables. Okay, and home styles for the Whitefish Chain, again, going to be fairly similar, but probably get a little bit more upscale rustic luxury, if you will, and more of the traditional Minnesota log home style, kind of sprawling ranch style as well. So winner of round two, Gull Lake, probably for kind of the high roller architecture, so to speak. And I would say the Whitefish Chain for kind of tasteful luxury that's more fits in more with the surroundings of that up north feel. All right, as we move into round three, this is going to be a little bit longer round when we are discussing entertainment and dining, because nobody buys a lake home just to stay in the home, right? A lake home is about a lifestyle. So we got Gull Lake in the first corner here. So let's go ahead and zoom into the Gull Lake Chain here. So we got Gull Lake here. We're going to zoom into the kind of north side of the main Gull Lake, the main lake on the Gull Lake Chain. So Bar Harbor's lakeside dining is actually really, could think of it as a celebrity approved restaurant or hangout, right? Go here. So Bar Harbor is right in Lakeshore. If you haven't seen, you can take a look at our videos on Lakeshore to get a little bit more in depth on that. But so here we go, Bar Harbor Supper Club right here, right as you come in the channel here into the north side of Gull Lake, where basically for the most part, all the other lakes on the chain are going to be filtering into, basically the direction will be through here, through this little bay area into the north side of Gull Lake. But we've got Bar Harbor Supper Club. We've got plenty of boat slips to park at, so you can come and hang out for dinner. Lots of they've expanded. They have a lot of outdoor space to hang out, as you can see, overlooking the little bay here. They have their classic boat show every year. Some people with some real money here who have the money to not just have regular boat, but also these classic boats that are very expensive to acquire, but also to maintain are very expensive. So here's the patio, lakes looking from the lakeside. Just a beautiful location. Some higher end menu items are going to be here and inside. As long as the weather's cooperating, to eat out on the patio, but you still get a great view from inside. So don't worry, you can still get French fries, right? So then, of course, so we got Bar Harbor Supper Club is on sort of the north side of Gull Lake. Then we will go down towards the south end of Gull Lake. Then we've got Ernie's on Gull, which is on, apparently it's now called Gull Point. I don't know, I've always called it Squaw Point my whole life, but apparently we're not supposed to call it that anymore. So the road is still Squaw Point Road. So yeah, here we go. Bar Harbor was right up here in Lakeshore. Ernie's on Gull is right down here. Not the most southern part, but it's in East Gull Lake. And we've got it's right out kind of at the beginning of the point, so not at the very end. But again, you're gonna have tremendous views. You have French fries here as well, of course. This is gonna be more of a lunch hangout. It could be lunch or dinner, but this is definitely more of your casual dining. And again, you're gonna want to eat outside on the patio. Again, plenty of docks or slips to pull into, so you can just hang out on the water all day. You got the outdoor bar for outdoor living convenience. This is a really popular hangout. So I mean, from locals to just everybody. This is a place for everybody to hang out. So bump elbows with everyone here, and here we go. Then you know, Ernie's has a lot of like live music and a lot of weekend events, sand volleyball. You know, there's just always something going on in the summertime. For another casual place, so Zorba's on Gull Lake. We'll go back up to Lakeshore, and just northeast of Bar Harbor, we have Zorba's right here. So you go back up from Bar Harbor through this little channel right here, and you can park your boat right here. Zorba's will be like your pizza spot, right? But again, yeah, Zorba's are going to want to be outside as well. So, I mean, the nachos at Zorba's are pretty epic. Indoor look here. Pizza, of course. Pulling up to the dock at Zorba's. Again, another sand volleyball option. Some of the outdoor seating. A lot of outdoor entertainment in the summertime that gets pretty busy on the weekends. So, you know, if you're someone who doesn't like to be around other people, Zorba's definitely is not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a place that's real quiet where you want to have a, you know, quiet, intimate dinner, right? Then we also have, actually closer to the middle of Gull Lake, is Quarter Deck Resort. Technically not in Lakeshore, but just kind of sitting out in the middle of unorganized territory, if you will. But it's here on the west side, about the middle of a lake here. So Quarter Deck is a resort, but also a great place for outdoor dining. So you can pull in, you know, all these boat slips you can pull into and have dinner here. Again, you want to eat outside. So you're right on the water, beautiful. This is not necessarily as well known for like entertainment and activities, but it's a really cool place. It's kind of recently updated and renovated, and so it's definitely something you'll want to hang out or go check out. So that's kind of the main dining options. There's also, you know, there's dining options like at the resorts, right? Madden's Resort, Cragen's Resort, Grandview Lodge all have a ton of dining options, and you can pull into all those places. There's a huge variety of options that you can pick from. There's no shortage. I mean, there's so many restaurants that you can eat, you know, just by boat on Gull Lake and on the Gull Lake chain. Most of the restaurants and everything are going to be right on Gull Lake itself, not necessarily on the other lakes within the chain, but they're all accessible if you're on the Gull Lake chain. So we'll get into activities here. So we're going to look at basically championship golf at Madden's, which is going to be down here on the south side, down in East Gull Lake. Madden's and Cragen's Resort. So Madden's right here and Cragen's right here. They both have multiple golf options. So you can, as you can see here. So those you'd be able to pull in and get off your boat and golf. You don't have to drive to them. But there's also golf courses at the down here, the Classic at Madden's, and then the Cragen's Legacy courses over here. And then we have the Gravel Pit Golf Course. You can't forget about that. So that's the kind of the coolest, newest golf course in the area that we want to check out. And of course, you got the golf up here from Grandview Lodge and Resort, most notably the Pines Golf Course. So we're just minutes away. You can pull up actually here to Nisswa Lake, and you can park your boat, get out, and go in through the tunnel underneath the highway there, and just easily walk into downtown, do all kinds of shopping, get ice cream or candy or whatever. And again, there's more restaurants there. So there's just lots of options. And there's Dairy Queen, but there's also the Chocolate Ox, which is famous in the Brainerd Lakes area. It'll definitely want to take advantage of the Chocolate Ox. Unless you don't have a sweet tooth, then, you know, leave some for us. So, you know, you're driving around on your boat all day, unless it's solar powered somehow, you'll need to get gas. So you can get gas at multiple locations on Gull Lake. One would be over here, the Gull Lake Marina here, over by Zorba's and the boat club here. So you can get gas. And then also at Quarter Deck Resort, where we're just talking about food options, kind of the north side of the lake there, about the middle of the lake, and then you can also fill up your gas at Ernie's as well. You know, depending on the time of day, weekend, that kind of stuff, the lines might be a little long, but there are multiple options for getting gas. So, all right, time to switch over to the Whitefish Chain. It's their turn. All right, so now as we head up to the Whitefish Chain, so some of the dining options are going to be Moonlight Bay and Manhattan Beach Lodge and the Wharf. So, you know, we'll kind of go in. So most of the dining options are going to be, you know, all in here, closer to town, to Cross Lake, right? You know, main part of town of Cross Lake, you know, downtown, right in here along the eastern shore of Cross Lake, one of the lakes on the Whitefish Chain. Of course, there's a Zorba's on Gull Lake Chain, but there's one here on the Whitefish Chain as well. Now, this is not going to have the same kind of feel as the one on Gull Lake. They're not right on the water, so, but we'll go up the street here to Moonlight Bay. Of course, like the name suggests it's in a bay. Just make sure, so it's on the very northern part of Cross Lake in this bay here. Here's where you would access the rest of the chain, right here. So you're definitely not cut off from the rest of the chain by being on Cross Lake. So Moonlight Bay is going to be the outdoor dining option is going to be preferred. Great nightlife, plenty of options here for pulling up with your boat, having dinner or whatever you might like. So of course, pool tables and lots going on at Moonlight Bay, specifically in the summertime, right? From here, we'll go to the Wharf. All right, this will be, you know, that spot where we came in into the rest of the lake here, from Cross Lake to Rush Lake, which is a great spot then to get boat fuel here. So along with a couple other places, but we'll cover that in just a second. You're going to see a ton of summertime, especially on the weekends. There's going to be a lot of traffic right through here. So not necessarily a serene place, but definitely you'll see a lot of different boats and activity going on. So there's the gas pump right there and plenty of spots to pull up on, but there's only so many spots. So you may want to make sure you get there at the right time and kind of keep an eye on, see when the best times are to go. There may be a little fight or war over some of the docks here. So let's head over from the Wharf, we'll head up to Trout Lake, Big Trout Lake, and go to Manhattan Beach Lodge. So here you're going to go through, depending on where you're at on the lake, go through Rush Lake, over into Lower Whitefish, and then into Big Trout Lake right here, and all the way back around. It's going to take a little while to get there by boat, depending on where you're at. So sometimes driving might be the better option. But yeah, Manhattan Beach Lodge is going to have really great, some nice gourmet food options or menu options. So it's a lodge and restaurant, good patio seating, outdoor seating. That's what you're going to want to do. I mean, if there's bad weather, there's not much you can do about that. But pretty nice here. It's going to be, you know, a lot more. You're not going to have the same kind of boat activity coming through up on this part of the chain as you will, especially the Wharf. As far as activities go, so like obviously ice cream. One place there's Dairy Queen, which is always, you know, it's a fail safe. And then Lake Country Crafts and Cones. That's another thing. Those are going to be both right in town. Dairy Queen right here. There we go. Lake Country Crafts and Cones for something a little bit more gourmet. 36 flavors, great. So yeah, ice cream shops and specialty boutiques you're going to see on Main Street, but especially if you come over here to Cross Lake Town Square, quite a few things going on over here as far as little boutique shops to go shopping at, along with kind of Main Street, Cross Lake, if you will. There's some premium golfing nearby as well, so that's always a great option at the Whitefish Golf Club. And of course, Whitefish Chain is all about boating, especially going to the different lakes on the chain. Yeah, as far as, you know, you're going to be out boating, again, you're going to need fuel. So some of the places, so kind of right on Cross Lake here, Marine Max, Cross Lake here. This is where you're going to we'll be able to find boat fuel here, along with at the wharf, and then believe at Bertha Boat Works, which is way over here, more on the west side of the lake here, and then down into Lake Bertha or Bertha Lake right down here, which is good. You know, you don't have to be all the way to the other end thinking you have to get all the way back to the other side of the chain in order to get fuel. So, all right, so it's Gull Lake, the winner of this round. You know, Gull Lake, if you are all about the lake life vibe, the scene that's maybe more fitting for kind of the social media flex, if you will. But otherwise, you know, if you prefer, you know, just really genuine good time without the glam and the flash, you want a little bit more serenity, a little more peace and quiet, then the Whitefish Chain probably wins out in that case. All right, next round 4 here. It's all about public access and boating convenience, right? But what good is a lake without easy access to it, right? You know, we're talking about homes that are a private waterfront, but there are plenty of homes where you may not necessarily be able to get your boat in or a dock in right at your property, right? You might need to have that access and have that public access, right? Or if you decide that, you know what, I'm fine living off the water, but I want to be close so that I can enjoy that lake life without all the hassle, the headache, the cost of living right on the lake. So this is important. And we'll also talk about the differences as far as the layout of the lake chains, right? So let's start with Gull Lake. Gull Lake is a lake chain that spans over 13,000 acres, and most of that consisting of almost 10,000 acres of it being Gull Lake itself, right? And then it consists of about 9 lakes. I say 9, you know, usually where you look it says 8, but it could be 10, just depending on who you talk to, who you ask. Doesn't really matter. What matters is if you have access to the lake, Gull Lake, or the different lakes on the chain. So if you can access it, I guess it's part of the chain, right? The Gull Lake chain, obviously, you know, the main lake here is Gull Lake, right? Which is made up of the main body of the lake, plus, you know, I've got a couple of bays down here, Steamboat Bay and Wilson Bay over here, that are all part of the lake. And then you have Round Lake over here, which connects right in this little access point right here. And then I also have Love Lake right here. You got an access point right here. Then right here, just to the northwest, we have Lake Margaret's, and then Upper Gull Lake right here. And then right here is the Gull Lake channels right here. All right, then here we've got Bass Lake and Roy Lake, and then Spider Lake. And here we have Nisswa, Lake Nisswa. That is, I believe, by my count, 9. They're all interconnected. And there's others that are lakes that connect through like streams and different things that flow into it. And this whole chain actually eventually flows into the Mississippi River. That's a little interesting tidbit. You know, where are the access points? Well, so we've got actually access points in quite a few places, but the most common ones will be right down here in the kind of over by where Ernie's on Gull is. So this Gull Lake recreation area, there's a public launch, public access right there. So there's a beach, a public beach at the Gull Lake Recreation Center, or area. And then the Gull Narrows. So right here where Bar Harbor, Zorba's is, so that's right here. We've got public access here, the Gull Lake Narrows. This access point is going to be very busy, like on busy weekends in the summer. This lot is going to get packed, and there'll actually be boat trailers parked all along the highway here too. If you don't get there soon enough, you'll have to park along here. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, boat trailer parking can get pretty crazy around Gull Lake in the summertime. So not necessarily great for people looking for serenity or, you know, peace and quiet. So boat traffic is high, especially on like July weekends. Okay. And then we'll head over to the Whitefish Chain. All right, here we go. So the Whitefish Chain, it is slightly larger, not by much, but 14,272 acres, and consists of, it's not necessarily one large lake with a lot of little ones. It's actually quite a few good-sized lakes combined. So the largest ones are going to be Upper Whitefish Lake, Lower Whitefish Lake, Cross Lake, Rush Lake, and Big Trout. Now, where we'll see the most activity, so there's a public access here right in town, Cross Lake. So what's going to happen on busy weekends is the traffic will come up this way, go through the little channel right here over to Rush Lake, and then through here to Lower Whitefish Lake. So that's, anything kind of right in here and here and right along here. That's where you're going to see a ton of boat traffic, right? So it'll be pretty congested there. And even here's an access point, so that could be a little congested. Yeah, so the Cross Lake Recreation Area, that right here, that's where one of the main access points will be. And then Big Trout Lake access, which is, might have this wrong somewhere. It's like right in here somewhere. Not used that access before. So there are multiple options in other places as well. Those are going to be the most accessible, the quickest, easiest way. But you can see other lakes that make up the chain. So we've got so Rush Lake and Hen Lake is right here. It's kind of weird because it should be the same lake, but Big Trout, Great Lake, Bertha Lake is right down here. So Lower Hay Lake, Pig Lake. Sounds like a great lake, right? And then head over here, Daggett Lake and Little Pine Lake. And then Island Lake here, Clamshell Lake, here we go. There's one of the other Clamshell Lake public water access. So a lot of connected lakes, a lot of options. Oh, there we go. Arrowhead Lake, that's what I was looking for. A lot of different lakes to go on with the Whitefish Chain. I believe it's 14. This is going to be great for, maybe finding a little bit of peace and quiet, a little less of a wake than on Gull Lake, fewer boat horns, a little more tranquility. So who wins this round? Whitefish Chain maybe for peaceful boat cruising. Gull Lake would be, if you're looking for something a little more social, interactive, then that would be your bet there, okay? All right, final round is regarding investment potential. You just got to think, smart money is going to think long-term about a lake home purchase. All right, so we have Gull Lake. This will be a quick round. Historically strong appreciation of like 10 to 12% annually. Solid rental income, generally, $50,000 to $100,000 a season for, some of the top tier homes or more. 10-day minimum stays, right? That's always nice. But it's a crowded market and there's ultra premium prices for these homes, right? On the other hand, we have a Whitefish Chain. Still really steady appreciation, 8 to 10% annually, fairly close to Gull Lake as well. Strong rental income as well, just slightly less, maybe 10-15% less than on Gull. There's just more demand for Gull Lake area with Nisswa and Lakeshore and all that. There is just a little bit more entertainment and activities around Gull Lake than there is around the Whitefish Chain. But the Whitefish Chain, there's a little bit more of an affordability to entry, lower price options and available on the market. Who wins this last quick round? Well, Gull Lake if you want like a for sure bet, but the Whitefish Chain if you're betting on kind of long-term growth. Okay, so who wins this epic battle? If you want the highest potential, kind of flex factor and kind of status factor, lots of social scenes, being around a lot of people and the entertainment, nightlife kind of stuff. You don't mind crowds, then Gull Lake is probably your champion. But if you're a little bit more laid back, of course, laid back luxury, looking for a little more privacy, and also still steady appreciation over time, then the Whitefish Chain takes the crown for you. Bottom line, both lakes offer really great rustic luxury, up north luxury, if you will. Beautiful shorelines, outstanding views, and great water for, boating activities, swimming, and all kinds of stuff. So, and just the Minnesota quintessential lake lifestyle dream. The real question is really, what's your style? When you picture your dream lake home or cabin, what do you see? You're the one that's going to make the decision on that. So you're ready to buy your dream lake home, or need an expert to help you navigate the wild Minnesota lake home market? Well, that's literally what I do every day. So give me a call, a text, email. Carrier pigeons will work as well. The details are down below. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, like it, share it with all your friends if they're interested in moving to the Brainerd Lakes area. But until next time, I'll see you around the lake.